Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Lava Lava, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of the vibrant people and cultures of the Pacific Islands. I am your host, Michael Tan, and joining me today is my co-host, Spencer Harmon. Before we get started, a quick reminder to our listeners to follow, subscribe, and leave a review if you enjoy the show. Now let's jump straight into it. Today we will be talking with Jaiyah Saelua, the American Samoa Association men's national footballer, star of Next Goal Wins, and she was also recognized by FIFA as the first transgender in the world to play in the FIFA World Cup qualifier. Ta'alofa, Jaiyah.
Salafalava, thank you for having me. Finally, we get to have this conversation after so many months of planning.
Yes, it's been a while. So, Jaiyah, I wanna go straight into your personal life. Can you tell us about where you were born, raised, and your upbringing in American Samoa?
Yeah, I was born and raised here on Tutuila Island in American Samoa, in the villages of Leone, the island of Aunuu, and a lot of my childhood was spent also in Fatumahuti, where, as you know, Michael, we went to school together at the South Pacific International Christian Center. And I think it was maybe around the time I was transitioning from elementary into high school, I started to realize that I not only felt different, but wanted different things, was attracted to the same gender as the one that I was assigned at birth. And although I had Fa'afafine aunties and family members, I was never really exposed to the actual identity until I got to high school. As Michael knows, the South Pacific International Christian Center School is a conservative school, and they're very set in their ways. And my aunt, who is my dad's sister, actually pulled me aside one time when I was a kid to talk to me about the Fa'afafine identity. And of course, where she was coming from was from a religious perspective, and at a young age, I was quickly introduced to the ideas that being a Fa'afafine is wrong. And so I went into hiding, as many Fa'afafine and LGBTQI plus people tend to do when they are exposed to the idea that they're being LGBTQI plus or SOGI-esque, as I tend to use a lot now that I understand more that LGBTQI plus is exclusive of indigenous identities, but we'll touch on that a little bit more later on. Aside from that, my family was always supportive of who I was. It was difficult for me to realize how proud my parents were of me because I was exposed to that narrative from my aunt at a very young age. And so because I was in hiding a lot of my high school years, my parents sort of had an idea, but I took it upon myself to make sure that it was hidden from them, just out of fear that, I had friends who were beat because of their Fa'afafine identity or being feminine. But I also had a lot of friends that were out and proud and had supportive families. So for the most part, I grew up surrounded by love and support, and by the time I left American Samoa to further my education at the University of Hawaii at Hilo, I realized that my independence at the University of Hawaii was going to introduce me to a new way of life, a new nature where I could live completely as a woman. And that's what I did. And so began my transition, my official medical transition into the trans identity. And Hawaii was also the place where I was first introduced to actual prejudice outside of home. And it didn't feel, it wasn't a good feeling. And so I started to keep to myself a lot while I was at the University of Hawaii at Hilo, so much so that I dropped out of UH and moved back home to where I could feel comfortable in my own skin. So a lot of a lot of Fa'afafine and Fa'atam who grew up in American Samoa have their struggles, but fortunately for me, I didn't have a lot of the struggles that they faced at a young age. So yeah, being a Fa'afafine to me was more of a coming of age rather than a coming out phase. And I figured the best that I could do is be true to myself, be true to my passions and my identity as a Fa'afafine. And eventually it led me to becoming recognized by FIFA as the first out trans person to play in the FIFA sanctioned tournament. Although I have been playing for the national team prior to 2011, it was only at, post transition that FIFA recognized me as someone different. But I must say that I'm not the first Fa'afafine to play in the FIFA sanctioned tournament. There have been two Fa'afafine who would identify as gay men who played for the national team. And so a platform was created in 2011 where I was pushed into this responsibility to be the voice of LGBTQI plus and SOGIAS athletes, not only in the region but the world. And I quickly realized that there was not only a need for it, but it was a lot of work. And I had to, learn how to speak the right words and make sure that I was intersectional in the advocacy that I was forced to participate in. And it was overwhelming at times, but I come from a strong family and a strong culture, and so I have them to credit for having the strength that pretty much pushed me through this journey, this surreal journey that led to a feature film from Hollywood being created about not only my team but highlighting myself and the Fa'afafine identity. I started playing soccer at Fatmafuti, a part of the Football Federation of American Samoa, what was then the American Samoa Football Soccer Association, in their efforts to not only solidify their members as FIFA or their FIFA membership, and to try and develop the youth after the 31-0 loss against Australia, which prompted Australia to move to the Asia Confederation. They introduced a private school league where the South Pacific International Christian Center, was asked to participate in. And the first year that we took a team, we won the championship title, and it was a co-ed team, so that was fun, and that made it more appealing to me as a young Fa'afafine in hiding. And I was named the island-wide most valuable player. So it was early on. It was a sport that I really enjoyed, not only because it was the only competitive sport that was offered to us at a young age, but because I was good. And only 3 years later, I was drafted to the national team, the senior national team, not the under 19 or the under 21, but the senior national team when I was a freshman at Leone High School. And so began the journey of being a national player for the American Samoa men's national team.
Yeah, and you're right about the whole high school thing, because I never noticed you and your
Yeah.
younger sister
Yeah.
is displaying any, I would say, femininity, I think, but
Yeah. Yeah. Or
mostly
any signs of
because
being a
in
Fa'afafine.
in, in Spic, if something like that showed up, we would get corrected, right?
Yeah.
But I always looked up to you, mainly because I saw
Oh.
how quiet you were and how strong. Maybe because you weren't really mingling with us underclassmen, but that's how I saw you.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Oh, thank you, Michael.
you were one of the players that I avoided coming
on
across
the
in high
yeah, on
school
the
in soccer because of how
yeah.
strong your leg was. So yeah, you're right. How these things, we were sheltered when we were in elementary, but we
Yeah.
suddenly saw when we were in high school, because my cousin is Christian Saelua, and I grew up with my cousin. And I don't know if my mind was pure in elementary, but when we entered high school, man, you will see all these prejudice and all these teasing towards the Fa'afafine.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I can't imagine how you guys felt. It wasn't the same
Mm.
level as how I was bullied because of my race and
Mm.
how quiet and meek I seem, but I know it wasn't the same level of
Mm.
how what you, the Fa'afafine community, had experienced in American Samoa because I love my cousin Christian.
Yeah.
We grew up together, and I saw a lot of things that went around in regards to Fa'afafine. So, mad props to you for coming out and
Thank you.
doing what you love and what makes you happy. Because ultimately, for me, it's all about pursuit of happiness.
Hmm.
I don't want to infringe on the happiness of other people, because if your happiness doesn't affect my happiness, then we're all good, right?
Well, yeah.
So
Today's episode is brought to you by Top Gun Home Inspection, a leading home inspection company in Utah. When it comes to home inspections, details matter. That's why Top Gun Home Inspection is committed to providing thorough and meticulous services. From the foundation to the roof, their experienced inspectors leave no stone unturned. They offer a range of services, ensuring that every aspect of your home is safe and up to standard. So, whether you're buying a new home or just want to keep your current one in top shape, trust Top Gun Home Inspection. Remember, a detailed home inspection today can save you from costly repairs tomorrow. Top Gun Home Inspection, where your home's health is our top priority.
So, what are some challenges that you face in American Samoa? It could be from high school to your adult life.
Yeah.
Challenges as a fa'afafine.
Aside from the Samoan humor is crude altogether, and aside from the name calling and the bullying that we faced in high school, it wasn't a lot. It was mainly words, and a lot of times it was that kind of bullying. Not nobody went as far as to actually physically harm me, but words hurt as well. And aside from that, I think the biggest struggle or challenge that I faced coming of age as a young Fa'afafine, was trying to navigate my identity under the Fa'afafine spectrum. Because as we understand, there are all sorts of Fa'afafine, and the word Fa'afafine translates into in the manner of a woman. And the opposite of that would be a Fatama, who is someone who was assigned the female gender at birth and portrays characteristics that are more commonly associated with the male gender. And so being exposed to the Western terms that are gay, bisexual, transgender, leaving high school and into the University of Hawaii at Hilo, my biggest challenge was trying to realize for myself who I was under the Fa'afafine spectrum, and whether I was going to continue to present as a male and be a gay man, or if I felt in my heart that I was actually a trans woman who was going to transition and live my life completely as presenting as a woman. And that was the biggest challenge for me. And I slowly started to realize that choosing to be a trans woman introduced me to a lot of new challenges, and I was very underprepared for the challenges that being a trans woman brought me. But again, I'm a strong person, and I often don't let the opinions of people I don't know affect the way I feel or the way I act, or the decisions that I make for myself in life. And so it's different when prejudice comes from people because then there's a connection between you and that person, whereas from strangers, I could care less. And so my transition into being a trans woman was pretty smooth. And yeah, I think that is the biggest challenge that I had to face. Just to touch on the Fa'afafine identity, when I was at a what is called the ILGA conference, the Oceania ILGA conference, which is the International Lesbian and Gay Association. The acronym SOGS or SOGI was introduced, where sexual orientation, gender identity, or expressions. And at this workshop, they not only introduced, but they wanted to make it known that a lot of indigenous identities are excluded under the LGBTQI spectrum. For instance, the Fa'afafine identity, it's one word for us and it's a spectrum for us, but we all of a sudden are divided when we are put under the rainbow spectrum, the LGBTQI plus spectrum. So gay men and trans women become separated under that spectrum, whereas in the Samoan culture and in a lot of indigenous cultures around the world, we are one and the same. And so I try to use Soji a lot more now, just to make it more commonly used in spaces that talk about indigenous identities like the Fa'afafine and Fatama identities, only because it's inclusive of identities that don't fall under the rainbow spectrum.
Thank you for sharing that. And I just wanted to say, first of all, you mentioned earlier that you have a tendency to go on, which I'm fully on board with encouraging you to do that, because, I imagine that after the movie came out, I'm sure you received a bit more attention, or a new wave of people that are discovering you for the first time. And, sometimes we see movies, as great as they are, whether for creative liberties or editing for time or whatnot. I'm not sure if we get an idea of what part of your story is, but obviously we don't get the whole story. So please, by all means, keep going on and letting us know. Just wanted to let you know. So I think one of my roles that I ascribe to myself on our podcast here is that, so like you and Michael are from American Samoa. I'm Afakasi, Samoan and white, raised stateside. And so a lot of things that happen on the island within our culture, I'm actually very ignorant of. And so you talking about your story, especially in the story of Fa'afafine, I think one of the things that I misunderstand, and I think a lot of people who in the the mainland and Western cultures, when they either don't know what Fa'afafine is, or if they do, we seem to get this picture painted for us that in American Samoa it's a safe haven, like this is where every trans person wants to be, etc. Like this is the goal. And so when you're talking about your struggles over there and experiencing hardships, I didn't know that about that. And so I think maybe that's a good thing that you clarified, like, look, it's not all sunshine or roses, there's still definitely a struggle.
I think for the most part, we live comfortable lives here, and a lot of the struggles that we face are coming of age, during our coming of age stages in life. But Fa'afafine adults and Fatama adults live very comfortable lives, and we are some of the most respected people in American Samoa and in the Pacific. So there, in a sense, it is sort of a utopia for SOGS people, where we can excel at whatever we choose to do in life, and we are respected generally in our communities. But a lot of the struggles that we face stem from the effects of colonization, Western influence, religious influence. And, it's important to mention that, because although we do live comfortable lives as adults, we do have our own struggles, and it stems from all of those influences outside of our culture and our people. But traditionally and culturally, we do have a place, and we do have responsibilities that are set aside for us by our traditions and our cultures. And so it is, the Fa'afafine and Fatama identities are beautiful identities and significant to our culture and our people, but that's not to say that we don't have our struggle.
For sure. And just, if you don't mind me asking, like, just kind of along those lines too, how would you phrase like the differences between your understanding or a Samoan understanding of what Fa'afafine means and is compared to the conventional understanding of transgenderism in the West?
Yeah. So I think that's a lot of Afakasis and a lot of people outside of the Pacific region or Pacific knowledge tend to equate Fa'afafine to trans women, and a lot of times Western cultures try to equate things or identities to things that they understand, to make it easier for them to understand who we are. But Fa'afafine is not the same as trans women, not only in social perception, but also in the identity itself. Fa'afafine, like I mentioned, is a spectrum, which, because the meaning of Fa'afafine is in the manner of a woman, and this might sound controversial to the LGBTQI narrative, but in the manner of a woman also means or denotes that we understand that we are not women. And I think it could be controversial to, especially to the trans identity, because there is a push or a narrative for trans women to equate to women, and a lot of times there's this saying that trans women are women, and I understand where they're coming from, but for Fa'afafine, we understand that we are not women. We only present as women and we live our lives as women, but we cannot equate to our sisters, our mothers, not only our physical attributes, but also the cultural responsibilities that are set aside or reserved for them, and the cultural roles that are reserved for us as Fa'afafine and Fatama. And so there's a lot of things that make us different. I think the biggest thing is there's no sense of pursuit for Fa'afafine and Fatama to take up spaces that are already reserved for women and men, because we grow up understanding that our Feloai or our Fatsinomanga. The Ba Feloai is this contextual space between any two human beings or groups of people that separate us in regards to the cultural structure of the Samoan people, and those are sacred spaces that under Western influence we might tend to want to overlap, but I think what's beautiful about the Fa'afafine and Fatama identities is we know our role and the spaces that we should take up. But yeah, I think that's the biggest difference is the sense of belonging and the things that we value and our priorities in regards to the different identities.
Let's talk concrete cutting, and who better to go than All Pro Concrete Cutters, owned by the one and only Thomas Fa'adiliu. They are pros with over a decade of experience, so you know you're in good hands. Whether it's big or small, residential or commercial, they've got the skills and the tools for any job. Thomas Fa'adiliu and his team take pride in their work, making sure your project is done right and on time. No cutting corners here, just precision and passion. Give them a call at 801-834-8835. Go with All Pro Concrete Cutters for top-notch results. All Pro Concrete Cutters, your dreams cut to perfection.
And that helps me out a lot, actually. Like, just like I said, from the outsider looking in.
Yeah.
Genuinely, I was looking for the answer to that question. And so thank you. That actually clears it up a lot for me personally. So thank you.
Yeah, it's also the reason that I continue to play for the men's team. You know, growing up comfortably as a young Fa'afafine, aside from even after being bullied or being called names as a young Fa'afafine, I always found that on the soccer pitch I was respected. I think it's because I was good, and growing up more as a Fa'afafine and realizing that I don't face the same struggles that a lot of trans women and women's sports face, that it made me realize that my privilege is coming from a place where I can be out as a Fa'afafine and as a trans woman, but also recognizing that another privilege I have is that I'm a trans woman that plays in a men's team. So I didn't have to face a lot of the struggles that trans women and women's sports face. But I also feel that I didn't need to pursue women's sports because of the fact that I was respected. And I think that could be a huge, that could help change the way trans women and women's sports, try to ease the tension in regards to that subject. I think if a lot of trans women grew up in space grew up comfortably and didn't have to face a lot of the struggles that they do face in Western societies, they don't really need to feel the need to pursue women's sports. And that's just, speaking subjectively because I wouldn't know. It's not a part of my experience. But what I can do is try to use my own experiences as a Fa'afafine and as a trans woman who plays on a men's team to help shed some light on the possibilities that,
Now, speaking on responsibilities and role, you're right. In American Samoa, what I see is Fa'afafine community is well respected when they reach
Mhm.
adulthood, basically,
Adulthood,
mainly
yes.
because they take on major roles as educators,
Hmm.
taking care of the family,
Yes.
pageants and all that, right? And that's what I've been seeing from the Fa'afafine community is they're going strong for our people and stepping in for the roles that a lot of people don't want to step in. So that's what I've been seeing.
Yeah, Fa'afafine are known to be diverse in their skills, and we could do anything, basically. And a lot of the jobs or tasks that men and women aren't usually good at or don't usually take up, Fa'afafine and Fatsama take up. But from a cultural point of view, a lot of time, because Fa'afafine and Fatsama aren't expected to settle down or marry, a lot of times, or almost all the time, Fa'afafine are expected to take care of the families, especially the elderly. Our siblings get to marry, settle down, and have children, begin lives for themselves. But Fa'afafine and Fatsama don't usually settle down or marry and have children. And so it becomes our responsibility to take care of our parents and our grandparents. And you see that all the time. I myself moved home in 2017 to take care of my late uncle, my dad's brother, and then my grandmother soon after. Both have passed on. And so, like, I'm trying to figure out what to do with my life now. And just in time for the promotion of Nexo wins. But that's just an example of, the cultural roles that Fa'afafine and Fatama have that we accept. And no matter where we go in life, when it's our time to take up this responsibility, we come back home and we carry it out.
I was gonna ask what are you doing nowadays, but I think you just answered it.
Yeah, I mean, I have a sense of freedom, a newfound sense of freedom, because I've been stuck at home for so many years taking care of my uncle and my grandma. This freedom is sort of new, and so my grandmother passed in December, and we had her funeral in, I can't even remember if it was January or February 2023. And then I got word from Mexico Winds that they were going into post-production and wanted to, with the release date, and they wanted me to watch the film. So I got to watch it in April and give my feedback. And I didn't know that I was going to be invited to do the tour. Thankfully, there was a Hollywood strike. I'm probably the only person in the world that was happy there was a Hollywood strike, because then I got to do the tour, and it became my responsibility to promote the movie and make appearances and speak on behalf of the film and try to promote it as much as I can. And because the actors and the cast couldn't, because of in solidarity with the guild and the writers, the actors chose not to make any appearances. So yeah, it all worked out for me. I think a lot of people, there's this saying that Fa'afafine and Fatama are blessed to take care of their elderly and their family, and I feel it. My cup keeps overflowing because of, and I truly believe it now. I mean, when people say, "Ikim o manuia nga Jaiyah, tau singo lo tinama lo sama," and I never believed it because it was a struggle. It's not easy to take care of our elderly family members. But now that they're gone, I truly feel that the blessings are coming back to me, and I'm grateful. I mean, these are once in a lifetime opportunities. Who from American Samoa, born and raised, can say they've done a Hollywood tour for a movie that is about them with an actor that plays them? I mean, that's, it's surreal, to say the least.
No, that really is, and rest in peace to your grandmother, and congratulations to you on all the opportunities that have come your way. I just wanted to ask, now that we're talking about the movie a little bit, now that you've seen it, and I know you've taken a role in promoting it, how do you feel that
Seen it
you were
way too many
portrayed?
times.
Yeah, how do you feel that your story was conveyed? Do you feel it was an accurate portrayal or whatnot?
So when I saw it in April, I had a lot of problems with it, but it grew on me. I think my initial feelings towards Kaimana's parts. Kaimana is the actress who plays me. My initial feelings were cringe. I was uncomfortable seeing those parts in the film because those were my actual struggles, and I wasn't sure if I wanted people to see those things. And although I had signed off on the contract and allowed them to tell my life story, I wasn't, initially I wasn't comfortable seeing those parts about my life. And they aren't accurate to the timeline of 2011, but they are accurate to my own experiences. But the more I watched it and the more I talked to my family about those parts, the more I realized that those are important parts to show. The beautiful parts about the Samoan Fa'afafine identity, but also the struggles of the trans woman identity. But more specifically, the struggles of a trans woman in sports, having to decide whether I should continue my hormone replacement treatment as a trans Fa'afafine athlete who plays on a men's team, because hormone replacement treatment does affect your body physically in a way that I wasn't able to perform as competitively as I could prior to taking the hormones. And that was one of the lowest parts of my soccer career, was having to decide whether to continue hormone replacement or to stop it, because I wanted to still play competitively. And both were passions of mine, to keep playing competitively or good enough to play on the senior men's national team, but also to transition as a Fa'afafine trans woman. And so that was my biggest struggle, and I felt that it was important to show communities and people outside of the Samoan community, because then people in the world could see our struggles and hopefully sympathize with us and our struggles, and hopefully make the environments that they're in more inclusive, with not only within themselves but in their communities, where they, if they are ever faced with a trans person or anyone from the LGBTQI plus spectrum, they could try to speak up if anything happened to that person, and be an ally for them.
Yeah, I personally love the movie. It's something about seeing our culture, especially American Samoa, being portrayed in a
I mean, the
Hollywood movie,
spoken
right?
language, the songs,
Yes.
it's so different hearing our language and seeing our practices, although they are very Hollywood interpretations of our practices, like the sa and the curfew, where we don't stop in our tracks, and we do, but not in the way that they portrayed it in the movie. A lot of little things that were what's the word?
Exaggerated.
Yeah, very exaggerated for to make it more appealing to audiences outside of the Samoan culture. I mean, it was funny to us, but a lot of people outside of our culture don't understand that it's not the way that they portrayed it. But it was pretty cool to see a lot of those things, especially the music and our language being spoken. I thought it was beautiful.
Are you a veteran, military member, law enforcement officer, hospital worker, or educator dreaming of owning your own home? Frontline Heroes is here to make that dream a reality. Their program is designed by a group of realtors, lenders, and escrow specialists who want to give back to those who served our communities. Here's how it works. Their realtors pledge to contribute 25% of their commission, while lenders chip in half a percentage towards closing costs and other fees associated with buying a house. It's their way of honoring your service and making home ownership more attainable. Contact Dan Taylor at 512-4200 to learn more and take the first step towards owning your own home. Frontline heroes, turning dreams into keys.
So yeah, to our audience, make sure you go check out The Next Goal Wins. It's available on Disney Plus now. So you have no excuse. It's basically everywhere on
Yeah.
Blu-ray, DVD.
Yeah.
So it's available for you to watch.
The documentary is also has been re-released as well. It's been off of streaming sites for a while because it was released in 2014, and I got to do the tour for that, the worldwide tour for the documentary in 2014 and 15. But this Hollywood remake is a completely different playing field. I mean, the treatment of, the Hollywood treatment was just next level for me, and I was just shocked to be, I thought I was sitting in these 5-star hotels and first class travel around the world, and I thought, who the heck am I, to be doing these things? And it was a life-changing experience, and it opened my eyes to the possibilities of what this platform can do for me. But it's not the documentary, and it's not the real life story. And so I always encourage people to go and see the documentary for themselves now that it's been re-released.
I mean, I think that if anything, because I can only imagine what that's like trying to wrap your head around, like, man, how did I get here?
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I think that actually, I think that actually speaks to basically your merit as like an inspirational figure and your merit as a soccer player. Like you're outstanding in these things, and it's basically the gift that's kept giving, that you've been able to do multiple world tours trying to, like, not only did you do your thing as a player, but then also doing your thing as someone promoting this story that has obviously touched many people's hearts, so and lives. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. It's been a crazy journey, but I think the movie, during the tour for the doc and for Next Go Wins, Taika's version, was very rewarding, and I'm grateful for all of the experiences that it brought me. But I think the most fulfilling experience for me was becoming a FIFA legend. And soccer has always been my passion since childhood. Being a trans woman was a slow coming of age thing, and I am passionate about it as well, my identity as a Papapi and as a trans person, but not as passionate as I am about being a footballer. And so being invited to the FIFA Women's World Cup final match in Sydney, and with the president of FIFA, Gianni Infantino, and the Secretary General, Fatma Zamora, and the U.S. Women's National Team coach, Jill Ellis, inviting me to a private event where I was highlighted for being the first out trans woman to be in the FIFA sanctioned tournament, but also all the visibility and the advocacy that I've done to help make football more inclusive of LGBTQI plus athletes. That ceremony where I was named an official FIFA legend, being a part of a FIFA legend class with some of the biggest names in the world, was for me a lot more fulfilling than any tour that I could do for any movie. And I just wanted to put that out there because, Hollywood might have given me a lot of wonderful experiences, but becoming a FIFA legend was the biggest achievement that I did, personally.
Yeah, that's amazing, and I wouldn't know anything about being a celebrity or a FIFA legend. So, but we like to ask our guests these questions because we here at Behind the Lava Lava we like to learn, or or you can even give any advice. But do you have any questions for us here at Behind the Lava Lava?
Why Behind the Lava Lava? I guess when I first saw the name, I thought, what's behind my lava lava? It's my body. so why this name? I guess I'm curious.
Go ahead, Michael.
So yeah, we are not new to this question. We love it when people ask this question because it starts to explain our origins. So we voted on the name Behind the Lava Lava. You know that the word lava lava means cloth in Samoan. So the idea is to replace the word behind a person, replace the word person with lava lava. So we
I
are
get
cut
it.
from the same cloth, but everyone has a unique story to tell.
Hmm.
So that's what the clean meaning of the word lava lava
Ah,
behind the
I
lava
get
lava
it.
is. But we get all the jokes, the other meaning. So
Yeah, that's so creative.
Like
I love that.
one of Nah, I like it because it does sound it's silly sounding from the get go, which I like that about it.
Hmm.
But I always think of it as like, who's the person underneath? What's under the surface?
Right.
But one of my usos over here, like I live in Las Vegas. One of my usos over here is always like clowning on me. He's like, "Oh, you mean what's under the lava lava?" I'm like,
Exactly
"Bro,
what
behind the lava, under
what
the
we
lava lava. That's it. All means the same thing, man."
That's pretty creative. I
But it
love
is what
that.
it
I
is.
love that.
But I mean, it catches attention if anything. So there.
Right, right. Yeah, there's a podcast here, a new one. You know Billy Oni? Michael, do you know Billy Oni?
uh,
No?
it sounds familiar.
Well, him and a few of his friends created Breaking Breadfruit. And a lot of times these podcasts, especially in Oceania, they're so creative in the way the names that they call their podcast, but also how the focus of conversation always is related to the title of their podcast. I spoke with them before the tour, and I thought it was interesting to have these spaces where Pacific stories are amplified, elevated, but told in a more genuine way, because a lot of times in bigger outlets, they have their set narrative where they're going to talk about this thing, but also filter it so that it's more politically correct to their viewers, or so that they could be true to their platform. And so I think
Yeah.
it's cool that we have these platforms like podcasts where we can just be real.
Definitely, and as Michael's told this before. Basically, like behind the lava lava was the most politically correct of all the ones that were voted on originally. That was before I joined, so I'll take his word for that. Like him and his friends, they're all ex-Marines, so they got that Marine Corps humor,
Jaya, shout out your people, your cheerleaders, and where can people find you if they want to contact you?
Okay. Oh, I like to shout out my family, of course. I come from a very strong family, and they've given me especially my parents and my grandparents. They've made a name for themselves to the point where us as children growing up, we lived comfortably, and we didn't have a lot of struggles. But also shout out to the Fa'afafine community, my Samoan people, for being true to the aspect of cultural significance of the Fa'afafine and Patsama. Otherwise, we would have the same struggles as trans women and gay men and lesbian women. And I think it's beautiful that although we have struggles at a young age, we've become flowers growing up, as said in the movie. But also shout out to the Football Federation of American Samoa for allowing me to be true to myself as a Papafine, but also continuing to celebrate me, continuing to have me on the team, I guess. I mean, I'm one of the oldest players now, and although I could still play competitively, it's become more and more difficult to keep up with, especially the youth players. So my career as a footballer is coming to an end, but I will always be involved some way. Shout out to there's a lot of shout outs. Shout out to the creators of Next Goal Wins, the documentary, Steve Jamieson and Mike Brett. Without them, our story wouldn't have been documented, and essentially this Hollywood version wouldn't have been made, and all of these opportunities wouldn't have been presented to me. But you can find me I'm more active on Instagram. So my social media is divided where Facebook is for my family, um, Instagram is for the public, and then Twitter is where I just rant about politics. It's for different purposes. So yeah, depending on what you want to see from me, check it out. Check my social media platforms out. But I'm mostly active on Instagram.
What's your handle on Instagram, real quick?
At Jaiyah Saelua.
And we really appreciate you for joining us today and
Of course.
just sharing your story to the world. But whātai te lava for the opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me, Michael and Steve. Sorry.
It's Spencer, but you know what? No, don't even worry. No, I'm telling you, I go to a class all the time, and I have a friend who's known me for years. Literally just called me Steve.
Oh
so
my
like
God.
You're not the only one. I think I just look like
a
Steve
met
for
you.
real.
I knew Michael for many years.
You're good. You're good. You're good. Don't even worry about it. Like I'm not even making that up. Like people keep calling me Steve. I think that my parents messed up my name. So.
Maybe you just look like a Steve.
But yeah, to everyone, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Behind the Lava Lava. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow, drop a comment, and leave us a review. This is Michael Tan and the team signing off. Tofa Soifua.
Working on my interests, it's who I am. I'm trying to make these digits look like EINs. When the help ain't free, you all help me. Salute to folks who turn their names to LLCs. The wealth is in itself to help a non-profit. To be better women or better men, whether business by veterans or common folks with a dream. We're all born with the same strength. We tread waters that were untouched. Let's be on the same wavelength. Behind the lava, front of our eyes. Let our legacy live off it when we're up in the sky. All signs point to us to help someone make a difference. With God as my witness, 'cause talk business.